Back in 2016, I bought my Cessna 182 for $93,000. And looking back, even then, it was a really good deal. Based on comparables at that time, that airplane was probably worth about $120K or maybe even a little bit more because it had a brand new engine and some updated paint, interior, and partial glass avionics. It was a sweet deal. But now something interesting and really maybe even a little bit troubling is happening. I have watched used airplane prices skyrocket over the last 12 months. And it's gotten to the point where I'm not really sure if it's like believable or laughable or temporary or depressing or what, but it seems to be the new world we're living in, or maybe at least for now. 182s similar to mine have been going for asking prices in the mid to high ones, which really means that my airplane might be worth twice as much as I paid for it even just 5 years ago. Now, I don't really view that as a win in my book because if I ever go to sell the airplane to buy a different one, well, presumably the airplane that I'm buying has also appreciated in value. And so while I'm selling mine for a lot more than I paid for it, I'm also paying a lot more for that other airplane. So I'm not really sure you actually come ahead in that situation, but not to mention my expenses in the meantime have increased. The insurance costs more because the airplane is worth more. I have to increase the whole value of the insurance, which costs me more money. But in the meantime, this drastic increase in prices has got me thinking several things. And honestly, I'd really like to get the community's take on this one. First off, I do wonder if these asking prices are just that, asking prices, or are these airplanes actually getting purchased for those asking prices? But because the market hasn't really self-corrected and the asking prices aren't really falling in any large way, that really lends me to think that kind of the supply and demand issue is keeping these prices high, and these airplanes actually are being sold for something near or above their asking price. It seems to be the same thing with houses and used cars right now. So if anyone has perspective or input on that, I'd really love to hear your view down in the comments. Secondly, I do find myself looking at listings thinking, gosh, that airplane is way overpriced. Or I'll look at listings on Instagram and I'll just kind of sort through the comments and see, well, what other people have to say about this? And it is full of people saying, yeah, right, you gotta be kidding me. It's not worth half that. Take 50K off that. I mean, it's almost funny to watch. I mean, people are just erupting in things. But I do wonder if at some point that argument is true, but in a 2019 world and not in a 2022 and beyond world. Personally, I really don't want airplane prices to go up like they have. I mean, there are a lot of barriers already to aviation, and I think this worsens the problem. But I do wonder if at some point we'll need to accept the new reality, if in fact this is the new reality, and not just a brief moment of irrational behavior in the market. Now, if these market prices are here to stay, then I think the sooner we can move on from having an emotional response to it, and instead having a practical response, the better. But if you think the market is going to correct itself and the prices are going to come back down closer to what they used to be, I would really love to hear your reasoning below. I hope that's the case, but personally, I really don't know what's going to happen here. Historically, inflation is a lot more common than deflation, so I lean towards this problem persisting and not just self-correcting in any sort of sudden way. But at the same time, supply and demand, the beauty of it is that it does tend to find the right market prices for things over time. So in that regard, maybe some of this problem is temporary if the demand cools off. I really would love to hear your perspective on this, but hit the brakes. One big disclaimer first. Now, this conversation about inflation can tend to really quickly get political. Now, there's nothing wrong with talking about politics if it's done in a mature way. In fact, I think we should talk about politics because it impacts our daily life. But if your comment below has a political bent to it, just be mature about it. Use your reasonable discretion here. I think we can have a really productive conversation as long as we are respectful and rational in our reasoning. I'm all for healthy debate when it is in fact healthy. So in the words of Ron Burgundy, you stay classy, San Diego. Now, thirdly, it is more important than ever to build a comps model for the airplane you are considering buying. Basically, you need to create a small library of listings for that type of airplane and track their data and asking prices so that you can learn how to spot a reasonable deal from an absurdly overpriced one. If you did this in the past using 2019 listings, kind of got a feel for how airplanes are usually priced, this exercise needs to be redone. Now, I explain exactly how to put together this comparable model in a video that I will link up in the corner and down in the description. And now is a really good time to reevaluate the mission that you need your desired aircraft to accomplish. Because what you might find is if you're really, really honest about what mission, maybe I don't need to go that fast. Maybe I don't always need to go that far. Maybe you can end up with, less airplane, so to speak. Maybe you don't need a 206. Maybe you need a 182. Maybe you don't need a 182. Maybe you need a 172. And as you can buy less airplane, so to speak, that also might save you money and kind of help counterbalance some of these rising prices. Defining that mission is so important. And I talk about it at more length both in the video that I'll link up in the corner and down in the description. Fourthly, I think we need to remain practical about this increase in used airplane prices. It's easy to have an emotional response to the rising prices of aviation and other things in life, but at the end of the day, if we really want to pursue flying, letting our emotions just run wild really doesn't get us any closer to actually solving the problem. Affording an airplane and trying to prioritize all the time to actually fly it is really just a financial and logistical puzzle. It's not impossible to solve, but it really does require some effort in order to solve it. And I think a lot of people want a magic fix for this, but really, I think the only magical fix is just to get practical about solving the problem. And in the video on the screen, I'm going to share with you the practical things that I have learned about affording aviation over the last few years. So I'll see you in that video.